Grab your Black Phillip, grab something to drink, grab some popcorn. It's time once again for the Witches Movie Coven. Oh, it's going to be a great night. We're a little short on people, lots of things going on, but we're going to introduce... Wow, that was something else. It is going to be a night here with the Witches Movie Coven. So, yeah. Anyways, let's talk about who is here. Heather, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, that's me. I'm Heather Greene, and I am the author of and it's right here actually, Lights, Camera, Witchcraft. It is the critical history of witches in American film and television, definitive guide to witches and witchcraft in American film and television. And I am also a editor at Llewellyn Worldwide. I work with wonderful authors every day on occult topics, and I am a journalist that covers these topics so well in mainstream media. And also, just to add, I recently was a recent release book, which is Run Amok, perfect for the holiday season. I'm quoted in here. I was part of this really awesome project. This is all about Hocus Pocus. So I also was part of that. So I love to do research and talk about all things witchy and all things occult.
All right. And now, straight from the chat room to the show, our special guest tonight is Tabitha Meadows.
Thank you. Happy Wednesday, witches. I'm Tabitha Meadows. I am a medium and psychic. I'm a longtime witch behind the scenes of the Movie Coven, as well as a remote support medium to Courtney, I Love You, Buckley, during the Scared and Alone. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm happy to be here.
And I see something moving in the corner of my screen.
Hi.
There he is in the dark.
Oh, look at that.
I have to get some candles because my power went out. I am in a hurricane, by the way. Just so you know, I am in a hurricane.
Are you collecting water?
Oh, yep, mostly on the roof. No, I have
magical hurricane water to use against your enemies. I think that is
true. That is true. Yeah. I don't really have any enemies though.
Well, I don't
have any enemies. I'm gonna come in here because I have more candles in here. So I'll come in here. I'll set this down here. You'll turn on all of my crooked candles. So maybe I might have enough light that you can see me.
As they say in the theater, the show must go on, and Richard-Lael is making it go on.
I am like one of those reporters that is always last to leave whenever there's a hurricane. Oh, look at this. The light is doing well. I'll turn on a couple more. Let me see what I have here.
You right now you sort of remind me of the discombobulated head in Pee Wee Herman.
I mean, there could be a lot worse things to be compared to. I happen to have liked the discombobulated head.
Maybe while Richard-Lael's lighting his candle, we should light our coven candle.
Absolutely.
That's a very good idea.
Okay, so I'm going to hold it up first. We lit it last week for the first time, and we managed to conjure Courtney back. So I'm going to light this again in support and honor and love of our coven members, both those on screen and those in the chat. It is a candle that was given to me by a good friend, Dodie Graham McKay, who's a witch, very wonderful and powerful witch in Canada. And so I'm going to light this every week as part of our tradition. And so here we go. I am going to put it right here.
And for those of you wondering, Patti Negri is in the UK right now, which means it's 2 a.m. over there, which is why she's not with us. She's dedicated, but no one is probably that dedicated. Very nice. Tonight's show is lighting candles. There we go.
So would it be?
So while Richard-Lael gets set up, and we get to watch Richard-Lael get set up in the dark, Heather, maybe you would like to tell us 5 things about this particular movie or these particular movies you have made us watch this week.
I'm taking offense to, I have made you watch. You did not have to watch them. Well, I guess we can do that, and since Richard-Lael's unable to give us his unbiased synopsis at the moment. So let's get to Satan's School for Girls, our movie of the week. There in this, like you said, it's 2 movies. So I am going to give you 5 great things to know about these movies. The first one being a 1973 horror movie. And the next one being a 2000. It was a remake. So the first things that I am going to talk about are some basic facts, which actually are interesting because they link the movies together. Then we're going to talk about the cast of the 73 movie, then the cast of the 2000 movie, then a little bit of context for both 73 and then 2000, which become very interesting and nerdy. So the first thing, let's talk about facts. So the 1973 movie was directed by someone, and it was filmed in California. And it was basically supposed to be Salem, we think, because it was Salem Academy for Women. It talked about the Salem witch trials, kind of the setting, right? What's interesting about this is that it was, originally written as a screenplay. This is not a previously made film. It was not a previously made novel or anything. And it was produced by Aaron Spelling. And this Aaron Spelling is a key part of this entire discussion I'm going to have. So keep that in mind. If you don't know, and I'll talk about it now. Who is Aaron Spelling if you do not know? He is the producer and involved with mega shows that were extremely profitable, yes, and also very, very much famous and popular. Dynasty, Beverly Hills 90210, Charm, Melrose Place, Love Boat, Fantasy Island, Charlie's Angels. Lots and lots of shows you may have heard of from the 70s, you may have watched through the 80s and into the 90s and beyond. Aaron Spelling is a mega force in this area. So he becomes a key figure. 2000 show directed by Christopher Leach, who you may remember, or maybe you don't remember. Christopher Leach was the director of I Know Who You're Waiting For, or I think I get it all confused because there's another. Hang on, we did the movie. Not I Know What You Did Last Summer. Hang on a second. It is Christopher. Where's my piece of paper with his name on it? Darn it. There it is. Christopher. I've Been Waiting for You. It's the one we did. It's the one with the Wiccan. We did it a few months ago and nobody liked it. So he also did CSI and on Universal Soldier, a bunch of things. Anyway, that's who directed this one. But again, it was filmed actually in Quebec and supposed to be a New England setting. And of course, produced by none other than Aaron Spelling. So we can see this Aaron Spelling flavor coming out in the cast. So moving to number 2, the cast of 1973. Of course, everyone recognizes probably Kate Jackson. She is the dark-haired student, and who eventually is revealed as one of the witches, part of the coven. She, of course, eventually goes on to one of her most famous roles. What she's most known for is Charlie's Angel, which she was in Charlie's Angels from 76 to 79. And she was in a host of other things. Night of Dark Shadows, The Rookies, Bonanza, blah, 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 Scarecrow, Mrs. King. She's in a number of things, but she's when people see her, they think of Charlie's Angels. And then, of course, we can't pass up the young Cheryl Ladd, who also becomes a Charlie's Angels, and she's in this. She's the blonde-haired Jody, I believe, is her name in this one. She was an angel from 77 to 81. So you have 2 of the angels, and again, Charlie's Angels was produced by Aaron Spelling. Just in a couple other notable figures, you have Pamela Franklin, who is in the movie that we all love very much, Necromancy, which was notable because it was one of the first Hollywood films that had an actual witch as a consultant, which was Raymond Buckley. Jason probably knows all about that, right?
Right, because I wrote a biography of Raymond Buckley that'll be out next May. Woo-hoo!
There you go.
Plug,
I love.
Heather.
There you go. You're welcome. And also another notable figure was Jo Van Fleet, who was the headmistress in the School for Girls. She actually was a Tony Award-winning actress. And so how she got on this film, probably a favor or something to Aaron Spelling. I'm speculating there, of course, because it was pretty surprising to find somebody who had won Tony Awards in a made-for-TV movie like this. Now let's go to the cast of 2000, moving forward. And that's the piece of paper I keep losing, the notes. So, of course, the most notable character, probably most recognizable character, is Shannon Doherty. During 2000, this was Shannon Doherty's big time. She was in Beverly Hills 90210, Charmed. I mean, she was in so many things from the 80s into the 90s that she was very recognizable, very much why she was in this. Of course, Beverly Hills 90210. Aaron Spelling. So there's a connection there. The other most notable character you have here, well, Kate Jackson is back, of course. And I'm sure, again, a favorite Aaron Spelling to cross over from one film to the next. She is, of course, the headmistress, not a headmistress. This is a real college. So she's a dean, maybe, in this show, in this movie. We also have Daniel Cosgrave, who's also a veteran of Beverly Hills 90210, and probably the next most recognizable character, the second most or most recognizable character is Taraji Henson. Very young Taraji Henson, who has since been notably one of the she is considered one of the most powerful and successful and talented actresses in Hollywood at this time. She was in Hidden Figures. She was in Benjamin Button. She was in The Curious Story of Benjamin Button or something like that.
Curious Case.
Case, thank you. Great film. Color Purple, 2023. She's been in a host of things. So she probably is one of the most, or if not, first or second most recognizable character. A very, very young one. So you have to look for it and go, oh, I know who she is. So it's got some good people in it that are notable. And then let's get to context. So the most interesting thing about having two movies that are supposed to be the same, produced at different periods of time, specifically during two different times when witchcraft movies were super popular, is that to look at what's different, what changed, and what's different. That kind of gives you an idea about how witchcraft and the occult were being treated during these two different times. So in the 1973 film, you wind up with a presence of a Satan, and you wind up with the presence of a coven of girls. There's notably, of course, you have Salem being brought into it to evoke that. You have ceremony and ceremonial magic, led by a figure that is like a coven leader figure, a masculine coven leader figure, who is essentially, I don't want to use the word abusing, but using these girls. Very, very normal for the 1970s witchcraft movies. Very much a feel of the ceremonial coven magician type stuff is what's being evoked here. But the 1973 occult films are really focused very much about an outsider, a normal person invading a space, an occult space. Think of Rosemary's Baby, Crowhaven Farm, Necromancy, the one we saw. These movies have somebody who is considered normal, non-magical, normal, winding up by some chance inside a space where there's devil worshippers. That's essentially what all these films are. And these are not devil worshippers, right, like you, Richard-Lael. These are never. This is not your type of. This is not the same thing. This is very much evoking the Malleus Maleficarum in all kinds of ways. And in fact, they use the word Malleus Maleficarum. They actually call the devil. They name him Malleus Maleficarum, which is hysterical. But
Can you explain what that means to people who don't know?
Yeah,
what Malleus
sure.
Maleficarum
So
means?
I actually have a copy of it right here, so I can hold it up. Hold on, because I have to keep my handy dandy Malleus Maleficarum with me at all times to make sure I can tell who's a witch and who's not a witch. Basically, it's a text. It's one of the first ones printed in the 1400s by the printing press, and it was distributed across the Europe as a way to figure out and know if somebody was a witch, what they did, and what to do when you found a witch. So this was pretty much one of the matches that lit the what is commonly referred to as the burning times, or lit the witch trials in Europe. It enforced them, it promoted them, and all across Europe. So that's what this is. It's been around since the 1400s. If you want to know what a witch does and how to kill a witch, you go to your trusty Malleus.
Doesn't it mean hammer of the witches?
It means hammer of the witches, yes.
So they're
and
calling Satan hammer of the witches, which is
they
ridiculous.
literally called him Malleus Maleficarum in the movie. It was very strange. I was like, what?
Hammer time.
Yeah, hammer time. So someone must have got a hold of that and just said, oh, that sounds cool. Let's use that. This is why you needed Raymond Buckley on this movie. So flash forward to 2000. We're in a totally different era, right? This is the you go girl era. This is when you have the craft had been made. And this is when Hollywood was already separating good magic from bad magic. There was Wicca. This was okay. So you had a totally different experience. There's no devil. There's no evil character. So most of the movies at this time were negotiations of femininity. They were discussions around how a girl can find her power. This is what Buffy was about. This is what Charmed was about. There were these ways that girls can interact with each other in their own covens, and who is bad and who is good, and who is using the power right and who's using the power bad. It's all about this sort of negotiation of feminine power within feminine circles. Most of these films, this is third wave feminism. And the negotiation of how a girl takes power is whether witchcraft is good or bad. Like I said, that gets real nerdy. And I discuss a lot of that in my book. So this is really what the difference between these two are remarkable. And there's a lot of other differences that you could pull out that are fun and interesting. But that's basically what we have here. So I'm going to hand it over to you guys, because I know you guys love these films so much and have so much to say.
Well, since I watched the first one, all I have been waiting for now for over a week is Richard-Lael Lillard's unbiased movie synopsis, or synopses, perhaps, as they are.
Where to begin?
And it's so much better you're doing this by candlelight.
Right? And the best part is that they're battery.
Though I do want you to go Mecca. I kind of do want you to go Mecca Lecca High, Mecca Chiny Ho at some point. Sorry.
So here is my synopsis of first the 1970s one.
Nailed it.
Right?
On point.
Apparently, there's the school. It's supposed to be Salem, but it's not. It's clearly Southern California, unless somehow Salem, Massachusetts also looks like Southern California. I've lived in Southern California and never in Salem, but I've been to Salem. So maybe in the 70s they looked the same?
No.
Anyway, there's a girl who is escaping some unbeknown force of darkness, and she is found deceased. This is something that has happened in both. The sister then comes along, and everyone has said, no, she has unalived herself, like I wanted to do after watching the movie.
What?
Anyway, so to figure out how her sister was accused of such things when she was such a happy child, she decides to go in mask to go to this college of girls' schools. In the first one, gosh, I don't know. There was a locked room or something. I was trying to watch it, but all I really, I wanted to hit the fast forward button, and I didn't. I mean, at the end, there's like more screaming and then unaliving and witches, and I liked this film so much. I watched both versions, and I got to tell you, I learned so much about myself. I wish I had something more clever to say, but it was just a lot of screaming and a lot of girls and a lot of. There was a devil figure. That's about it. That's really about it.
It's a Malleus Maleficarum.
Malleus Maleficarium. I will say, however, Heather, on the fact that you brought up the color purple, I have to tell you about that one because lilac, that color, it looks berry grape on me. I did that on purple. I think it's marvelous. Violet, you think of those plums. I hope they don't make you puce. And that's all I am going to say
our
about
drum, our
Satan's-
snare drum?
That's all I'm going to say about Satan's School for Girls, because it was not what I was expecting. It was somehow worse. I'm just, you don't know. I still may vote up. You don't know how I'm going to vote yet.
So I'm watching reactions from Tabitha, and she seems to really disagree with your synopsis. So I'm going to throw you right in, right into this, Tabitha.
You're
What are
throwing
your
me
thoughts
under
on
the
this film?
cauldron.
Yes.
Actually, I do agree with the 1973 synopsis of that's pretty much what that movie was. I do like the difference in the cinematography from both of them. The 1973 version had more of an up close in your face. It was pretty dark. Whereas the 2000 version had a lighter feel, even though it was dark. I really appreciated that about them. I like that. I think I liked the 2000 version a whole lot better, simply because of I like the way that one ended better. I do have a confession to make. When they kept saying Fallbridge College, I thought that they were saying Baalbridge College, and I thought, how appropriate to bring. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just thinking how much better I liked the first movie because it was 20 minutes shorter. And I really appreciated that.
I think the second movie, and I think you tapped into something, Tabitha. There was much more. There was so much more going on. It really felt like Beverly Hills 90210 meets Charmed. Like it was like the two of them pushed together. And it had so much more going on. You had the love story, you had this different characters, you even had more people. There was actually people at that college. At the other one, it was very concentrated. The only things shown on screen were the things necessary for you to see. And it was very limited. Those were functions of that decade, the differences in the way they filmed these TV movies and what they were doing, which is really interesting. Again, it gets way into the nerdy area of film geek stuff.
I did like the cinematography. I can attest. I liked the cinematography of both for different reasons. I just wish that the films would have not been those films. I as an artist who loves, unlike our beloved Courtney Buckley, I love films from the 70s most of the time. I don't really like films from the 2000s, but it was visual. It was interesting. I can say, but yeah. I tried. I pulled a Patti and I watched it on my phone, and then I tried to watch it on the computer, and I was like, it's just more screaming and tunnels, and I really could not get into these films. I kept hoping that there would be a real devil and
in the second one,
to hell.
Well, there was a real devil in the first one.
Yes, that is correct.
Yes.
And he turns to smoke or something. I don't know. And this is one of those things where, according to Patti, I should have been on some edibles or something by watching.
Well, what of that shadow figure that shows up in the one in 2000? I had to laugh about that too, because when he opened his mouth, he had all these gnarly teeth. So the first thing I thought was that song, the Baby Shark song is terrible. But I'm going, it's like Satan Shark, do.
So funny. I didn't like in the second one that they felt the need to create such a romantic story between. I thought it was sort of, for something that was trying to be feminist, it was sort of the opposite of you need this man to come in and help you, even though he's part of the ordeal. He's somehow dating the other one, but he's not, and he feels remorse. I felt like that was a little bit of a letdown.
I liked that the second one actually had occult stuff sort of in it. The rituals looked more like kind of things that we might do. They sort of took the sound of a lot of rituals and books from that period, the these, the thous, while they were doing the rituals, though they didn't actually crib from like a Buckland's Big Blue Book or a Scott Cunningham, but they kept sort of that language that a lot of us are used to from 1999, 2000, which I thought was interesting. And then for these characters to actually have occult powers in the second was a big difference than the first, where mostly they're just sort of walking around, all 12 of the people in the film, in the school that has 15 people perhaps in it. And then the second one, you know, they're turning into wolves, they're playing with fire. It's really different in that sense, though they are the worst special effects I think I have ever seen in anything. Like embarrassingly, hilariously bad.
So I'm looking up in my book. It's what's interesting is so as I said earlier, a lot of these teenage sort of school films were made in the later part of the 70s after, and for TV, just like this one was after Carrie was successful. Sort of this, so it was an anomaly for this period of time to have a school setting, a young school setting at this during this early 70s. But what's interesting is there was another film that's similar to this called The Initiation of Sarah that was also redone in around 2000. I was trying to find the date of it. And it actually, the main character of that other film, one of the main characters was Morgan Fairchild. And she appears in the 2000 version as well. So they did, I always forget which film is which when I'm thinking about which one is which. But The Initiation of Sarah, I think, and I'm just looking it up, was 2000. I want to say 2001, 2002, something like that. A similar parallel, because producers saw that witchcraft was popular again. And again, just like after Carrie became popular with teenage supernatural stuff, a host of films were made. After The Craft became popular, there was a host of teenage films. And so Initiation of Sarah was another one, just like Satan's School for Girls, that was redone and remade at this point. We can always add that to the list if all of you guys, all y'all want to watch another one, another pairing, we can do it.
I think after this pairing, we may need a year to recover to appreciate The Initiation of Sarah fully. I really feel that way. You know, like we should watch it, but maybe in 2025.
Well, our list
I
is
thought you were
already
going to say in
played
20 or 20 years, 20 or 25 years.
Or maybe 2045. I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to fight. We
I like
watched
how
another. Oh,
Sorry,
go ahead,
go ahead.
Tabitha. No, right.
I was just thinking about I like how they handled some of the scenes since it was made for TV, particularly like the multiple person love scene with the tree. I thought that was quite interesting.
Multiple person love scene with the tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember that scene.
Yeah, I think I've already repressed that.
Yeah. Well, I know that
In the second film or the first film?
The second film.
Okay.
Oh, you're talking about when two of them are trying to seduce him?
Yeah, and she's like in this dreamlike state, and she's walking along. She comes upon the tree, and it has the pentacle on it, and there's people like wriggling and riling all over it. So simulating a multiple people love scene.
Okay. I've blocked that. That's so weird. I can't remember it, but I know the tree and I remember the sort of sequence, but okay.
Yeah, I just think it's kind of an important thing because a lot of people out there have these ideas of what Satan worshipers do, and those types of things are something that comes up. So it was interesting to see the way that they handled that in the second movie.
You know, you bring up something, Tabitha, while I was watching the second movie. In the early 90s, I would watch some like weird Christian television, and I continued that for quite a while. And I would watch the Satanic Panic television. And a lot of it really peaked after the Satanic Panic was done, but all of these books were coming out. They were making videos, and you would see these guys with mullets pointing at trees with pentagrams carved into them and trying to talk about what they thought witches and Satanists did. And the second movie really reminded me of that. Like the rituals and stuff had come straight out of a 1996 straight to VHS Pentecostal video about
Cliche
Satanic
land.
Panic. Yeah, cliche land completely. You know, everything is a giant pentagram everywhere.
Absolutely. And it wasn't too far off. I mean, they still were using this. There's a number of movies that play into that at this, even at 2000. But the difference is they have Shannon Doherty's character, who had clearly, they show her having these natural abilities growing, but she turns away from it. And she still has, and she uses the power for good, which is, this is the craft. This is coming out of what we saw in the craft, coming out of what X-Files was teaching, coming out of Charmed. That's why this is and the supernatural weird aspects of it. That's why I kept thinking, oh my God, this is 90210 and Charmed have a love child. It's love child, because it really felt at the beginning more like 90210 and the love story and the kids and the school and all this stuff. And then all of the end felt more like Charmed with the dog.
Did she really use her powers for good, though? Because at the end of the film, she just murders everybody. That's how the film ends.
Right?
It's like, oh, I'm going to call lightning like I'm Zeus now, and I'm going to murder everybody.
This is in the movie's morality. What she did was for good. She was getting rid of the devil worshippers, the satanic people who were trying to take over the dangerous cabal of women who are ruling the planet. She was in the movie's morality. Yes, she was doing good. Whether we decide she was doing good because she'd murdered a bunch of people, that's another story. But
I mean, I just walked in on the last part of that, but murdering a bunch of people sounds really great.
Ritual sacrifice.
All I could think of, like, no, she's not like the best person now. She's as bad as anybody else, just killing people left and right. Though I will say another thing about that scene. When it's starting, like she walks into, I think, like a decrepit old building, right? And it's like, oh, haunted house. And then look, I got like little signs. And then all of a sudden she walks into this giant room out of Harry Potter where like the Satanists have set up everything. And it's like, how did that get here? Who thought that was a good idea or that would make any sense whatsoever?
Well, and then how did her power, like she literally had no powers at the beginning of the movie. I'm like, well, those grew fast. She went from being able to snap a light bulb to igniting that entire thing on fire.
We missed this scene where she got bit by the radioactive spider, and that's how she got her powers.
Ah, okay. Must have been during the tree scene that we missed.
She got her powers during the tree orgy.
The good thing about being in love with trees is the constant wood.
Yes.
We need a snare drum.
Never mind.
So that was there was some issues with it, but it was a made for TV movie. So was the other one. You're not going to get the Rosemary Babies. You're not going to get Carrie. You're not going to get the tightness and beauty and cinematic beauty and the storytelling quality and depth that you get in the good occult films from the 70s or the good occult films. Well, I don't know if there are any in the 90s, but the better occult films of the 1990s.
I want to say just 3 or 4 months ago, though, we watched another made-for-TV movie, and that portrayed witchcraft in a pretty positive light, and you and I both liked it, and so I'm kind of comparing and contrasting the 19 73 version of Satan's Schools for Girls with that 79 movie that we watched, which I can't remember the name of, which drives me crazy. But it was like a positive portrayal of witchcraft in a time when you didn't see that. And it did have higher production values than what we see in the Aaron Spelling 73 film.
Are you talking about Midnight Offerings?
That
was
yes,
1980.
the one with Marion Ross, 1980,
Yeah,
right?
and it was the one. It was I call that the sort of proto craft movie with the bad girl and the good girl who has powers and all that stuff. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, that one is hard to find where you can really see how much better it is. It actually is it actually isn't a bad movie. I enjoy that movie, and I think it's very interesting. So, that was 1980. This was done during the witchploitation period of time when they were just making occult films like mad because it was so exciting, because the rating system was here. They didn't have regulations. They could do all the things. So you had all these exploitation films. So a lot of them are bad. Even the ones that aren't made for television are really bad. They're juicy. They're so much fun to watch, though. Oh, I love watching those bad 70s witch films.
Is there any historical legacy for these two films? You know, we like, you and I are both history nerds, Heather,
Right.
So we think about this a lot. And I've never really heard of Satan's School for Girls until we decided to watch it. Does this have a cult following? Did it influence anything?
No. This is just one of those. This is just one of those type of films that kind of got thrown into the pot because it was a popular theme. There's tons of them like this, especially in the early 70s, periodically in the late 70s with the teenage films, and then again in the 90s. Look how most of that was television, but when a theme is popular, a subject is popular, Hollywood goes all in.
What about the craft? What about the craft? Would you say that the 1973 film had a little bit to do with what happened in the craft?
The 1973 version had something to do with
could it have influenced the craft? Could it have influenced the craft?
Could it? Because it I mean, you've mentioned it once, but it felt like that a little bit to me. It had a craft feel with the four and then needing the fifth of the five girls, and Shannon Doherty's character being like the fifth element. So yeah.
Certainly, the second movie is a rip-off of The Craft in a lot of ways, or an attempt to rip off The Craft.
Yeah. Is it Richard-Lael? Is everything okay there? Are you out in the storm right now?
I'm still in I moved to my parlor, but the storm is right over me.
You want to go outside and show us?
Yeah. I can. Do you want to see?
Yes, we do.
Okay, let's find out. I feel like those people that there's a tornado. Oh, I'm gonna go stand on the front porch. Okay.
NTM.
My
There's
favorite
no place like home.
I always love the Weather Channel people outside in the hurricane, getting ready to get blown away.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just see. Oh, wow. Okay.
We can't see anything, unfortunately.
I know you can't yet, but you will.
Oh, there we go.
Whoa. Okay.
Wow, the wind's really blowing.
And the sky is interesting.
The water is coming in almost sideways.
So we have I worked on a book called Weather Magic by Deborah Burris, and she's a PhD in that area, and also this witch, and fabulous witch, and she talks about how you can gather some of the water from storms like that and then use it in magic. Protective magic. I can't remember all the things. So gather some of it and save it up.
Well, this would be a good one for chaos magic.
Well, there's a river flowing underneath my car, so I'm sure there'll be some there in the morning. I already took a shower, so I don't want to take another one.
Thank you for indulging us.
You're welcome. The storm is right over me, so I keep cutting in and out. But, I've never been in a hurricane before. I've been in earthquakes and tornadoes, but this is kind of exciting.
Just on a more grand scale.
I think it adds like a whole nother layer to the show. Like we're right in the middle of a huge weather event, and a scary weather event too.
It is a scary event, but the thing that's scarier is, how do I turn off my lights? How late? Well, how long?
Oh, we lost Richard.
Right? It comes in and out.
I pulled some quotes from the 1973 version because I figured Courtney probably would never watch it. She'd watch the 2001.
I'm back. Sorry, morning, so I had to get.
You're back.
Okay, I'm back.
So
and
we're gonna do
nice and spooky, right?
You do.
Oh, I think everyone's frozen.
No.
I do think maybe we should just do a whole show in candlelight.
Oh, that
one
was
of these
so
days.
cool.
Yeah, I think it's gonna happen. So Heather's gonna do some quotes from the '73 movie to take the place of Courtney tonight, who we were pretty sure wasn't going to watch this anyways because it's a '70s film.
Well, I only have 4, and hopefully I can read my handwriting. So I loved the lingo from the 70s. Let your mind hang loose. That was the artist. He said that, and I laughed really hard because hang loose is so 70s. Condemn nothing, embrace everything, and hang loose. He said it again. Hang loose. He turns out to be Satan, of course. What the devil's going on? It's kind of funny. And he says when he's describing himself, Satan, he says, I welcome what man rejects. So his little speech right at the end, okay, he's bad. He's about to kill 9 girls, but he gives a really good speech. And at the end where he describes himself and he's saying, condemn nothing, embrace everything, hang loose. He's so describing the concept of Satan. And then when he says at the end, I welcome what man rejects, it's a great little speech that actually rings true. Of course, he turns out to be he's killing young women and all the other negative stuff around it, but he actually has some good language in there. So those are my little quotes that I pulled.
I welcome what man rejects. I'm almost wondering if they had went out and bought LaVey's Satanic Bible or something for inspiration, because it very much sounds like something LaVey would have said in that particular book. Yeah.
Absolutely. It wasn't, I looked, there's no credits to it, but LaVey and all his stuff was all over Hollywood in the 70s. It was super, super popular amongst actors and actresses and other people in Hollywood. So absolutely, I would not be surprised.
Yeah.
Hang loose, everybody.
So Tabitha, what's it like being in the show from the chat room to the show?
It's a different level. I'm not as much of a participant in the realm of wording, and
you're lovely.
You are.
So are you, Richard-Lael. I'm so glad to finally be able to work with you. I love you so much.
Well, the feeling's mutual. It's absolutely mutual.
Yeah, Heather and I'll just leave now, and you two can just do whatever it is that you're doing, and we'll just go.
You're doing great, Tabitha. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is so awesome.
You get to see how the sausage is made in the back. I mean, and also you get to find out that we do not have good appetizers in the green room. I've been complaining about that for a long time.
I mean, you know what? I have to admit, though, the cats that we serve are
delicious.
We eat the cats. We're eating the dogs. We're eating the pets.
Oh man,
we shouldn't.
I'm actually in the. I don't know if you can see behind me. I'm in the Fallbridge College there. There's a hallway.
You are
back there behind me.
Yeah,
That'd
and
be
there's just as
appropriate.
many students behind you as there were in
Look
the
at that.
movie too.
Look at that spooky one behind me there. That's something that occurs quite often. So
In Fallbridge College.
in my house,
Oh,
Oh,
I think I spend more time with the unalived than the living.
wow.
I
Any
understand
ha-
that very well. I understand
Yes.
that one very well.
any haunted dolls we should know about, Tabitha?
I have no haunted dolls, but we have tons of haunted objects because my partner used to go help people clean out their belongings when they were at the end of life. So he would end up with their things. So we have we have haunted clocks. We have gadgets for the kitchen. We have a really, really cool shamanic drum that I can't wait to be using myself soon. But yeah, oh, and we have a plethora of spirits in our abode. Particularly, there's this lady who lives with us. She's an elderly lady, and we love her, but she's quite grumpy. So if you are picking up on her, everybody normally does, Richard-Lael. Yeah, she's quite fun to live with.
I'm just curious about the possessed drum, like because you could like start using it, boom, 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 and then there'd be a counter rhythm from the spirit in the drum, and you'd get like double the drumming at the same time.
I was recently in a mediumship circle, and the person who was reading for me actually brought it was a Native American lady through, and she the message to me was that she wanted me to actually start using that drum in meditative and ceremonial purposes. So I need to start that because the spirits have spoken. And as y'all all know, we do not want to anger the spirits.
No.
We do not. Speaking of spirits and other things, I feel like I'm just taking over, but it is time for the Mankey movie minutes, because it's not a minute anymore because I'm apparently selfish, and now these things go on for like 3 or 4 minutes, it feels like.
Shame on
But
you.
this is it. Heather, I apologize in advance, but I have
Why?
never been more disappointed with any of the movies we watched on this show than both iterations of Satan's School for Girls. With a title like Satan's School for Girls, I was absolutely sure I would be singing my classic song for tonight's show. Boobs and butts, boobs and butts. Jason really loves boobs and butts. And with both Kate Jackson and Cheryl Ladd in the original film, my inner 8-year-old was really excited about watching at least the first film. But then I found out that both of these movies were made for TV and not for HBO either. There are not even bikinis in either of these movies. There's nothing. Everyone is wearing jeans the entire time. Would it have killed anybody to give me a lingerie pillow fight? It's completely pointless. There's a Shannon Doherty love scene in the second one, but that one mostly involved the guy she was seeing laying shirtless on top of her. It was not erotic. It didn't do anything for me, and it left me disappointed. Both movies tell essentially the same story, which I will attempt to summarize for you. Some girls worship Satan. Also, nothing really happens. The end. Seriously, nothing happens in these movies, and it's not like there's witty dialogue or, most especially, boobs and butts around to save the day either. There are some differences between the two films. In the first movie, the college that the girls attend has 12 students and 2 teachers. In the second film, there are more people at school, and the girls seem to have real witchcraft powers, but the powers rely on CGI. And as I said before, this movie features the absolute worst special effects to ever air on network television. And I used to watch the CW. I can't put into words just how bad the special effects are, but they are laughably bad. Oh, and there's one big twist that everyone who watches these movies will see coming from 4 commercial breaks away. In the first film, you are led to believe the bad guy will be the school's head mistress, but it turns out the leader of the satanic crew is a perverted professor who sleeps with his students. Shocker. Oh, and yeah, that guy, the professor, should be slapped in the face. But in the second movie, just when you think it's the new perverted professor who also sleeps with his students, who should be kicked in the nards, it's the female dean. And this new dean is played by Kate Jackson, who was in the original movie. Whoa! This huge change is meant to surprise the 13 people who saw the original and were now watching the remake. Wow. This is the biggest twist I've seen on screen since The Sixth Sense. And people keep talking about Shannon Doherty being in this movie. I love Shannon deeply because of 90210. But also, this movie has Taraji P. Henson in it, the woman who starred in Hidden Figures and has twice been on Time's 100 most influential people in the world list. And here she is, absolutely slumming it in this ridiculous movie that makes an episode of the Super Friends look deep and sophisticated. I wanted to watch Bluey. I'm surprised Henson hasn't destroyed every copy of this film, physical and digital. And if she asks me to help her do so, I will sign right up. Boom. There's your minute.
Here comes the fake lightning.
Yeah.
That's funny. And you know what? I think if we really can like think about this deeply, maybe it is that Kate Jackson didn't die when everyone burned up in the first one.
Right?
She
She's the
escaped out
same
the
person.
back and then grew up and went to this other school and started the whole devil worship thing again on her own all these years later. So they're actually connected. It's not a remake. It's Satan's School for Girls, then Satan's School for Girls again. 1 and 2.
You know what's amazing about
saying.
You know what's amazing about Kate Jackson too? She's perpetually 42. She was
is.
42 in the 1973 movie. She looks like she's 42 in the 2000 movie. Like, she just doesn't age. I think she was 42 in Charlie's Angels. Yes, like, you know, once she hit 14, all of a sudden she became 42 and then just rode that for the next 30 some odd years. Right?
I also want to give a Shannon Doherty actually passed away this past year too, so I just want to kind of like mention that and give her a little moment there. Yeah,
she had cancer, and she was struggling with that in the end. It's sad. She had a nice career, was pretty popular, and people really liked her. So it's pretty sad.
And if you're Gen X or millennial, Shannon Doherty is a part of your childhood. First with Beverly Hills 90210, and then later with Charmed, right? And she's been a part of that witchcraft zeitgeist for quite a while because she was in Charmed.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Maybe we just take a moment too. We just learned that that James Earl Jones also. Yeah, Darth Vader. He just passed. And it might you just reminded me when you said that. I thought, so maybe we just need on the Witches Movie Coven just to say something about that. Give a shout out. He was in a movie with a witch, but I don't think he ever played a witch himself. He was I don't know if he wasn't a sorcerer in Conan the Barbarian, but there was a witch in that movie. It's the only connection I can make, unless you say witches are in Star Wars.
I mean, Darth Vader, all the Jedi are kind of witches in their own way.
Yeah,
right?
They are. We talked about that one.
Yeah.
And is there anything more pagan than the circle of life in The Lion King?
Lion King.
He was Mustafa, right?
Yeah. He was Mustafa. Mustafa. You can see him in Doctor Strangelove. He's super young. I think it's like 1964. You can see a super young James Earl Jones there. Really, but you hear the voice and you're like, oh my goodness, look at him. He's so little. So he's part of my, he because of I grew up in a Star Wars fanatics home and with my dad, and growing up with Star Wars, he was a major part of all of it. So that was pretty sad. But he was 93. He lived a good life.
Also, Field of Dreams, as
Yeah.
our producer Rob says, best ghost movie ever. I'd probably argue that, but it is one of the better ghost movies ever
It's a
made.
great baseball movie.
So we have 2 wands up to do tonight. We need to do wands up for the original blessed 80-minute version of Satan's School for Girls.
Which one did you say first?
The 73 version, which was 80 minutes, which I felt blessed that it was 80 minutes.
You stabbing it?
Yes. Die. Anyone in the chat room, did anybody like this movie? Heather is quite kind with that. 50%
As a movie,
rating.
it's not good, but I'm fascinated with how the 2 movies work together to represent witchcraft. So I'm giving it a neutral.
Neutral. We have another. Robert Hicks gives the neutral for the original. And what about our second Satan's School for Girls movie? Wands up or wands down?
There's more stabbing. I'm also doing neutral for the same reason.
I could find no redeeming qualities in these films at all. And they also had no impact on the history of witchcraft. So huge wands
And
down.
I tried to watch it. I tried to watch both, and I couldn't for the life of me understand what was happening in either one of them.
They're not good movies. And
They're not good movies.
No, they're not good movies. And my neutral thing is just because of the comparison of the 2 was fascinating to me, and it really tells me how witchcraft has changed in the representation. So that's why I give them a neutral for that reason. But I will say, if all of you are so disappointed in the 73 film not having boobs and butts as much as Jason, I could give you a string of films that will satisfy that itch, because there were tons of them. And we can have, like, Blood Sabbath of the She-Devils. I mean, we can go all kinds of ways with those. We can add them to the list.
Am I
Jason?
wrong, though, when I hear Satan's School for Girls and I expect boobs and butts? I mean, it sounds like a boobs and butts movie, doesn't it?
You're not wrong.
No, you're not
You're
wrong.
not wrong.
And
And
it's
I've
from
heard of this-
73.
And I've heard of this movie in the past, and I always assumed, whoa, this would be something to watch. And it
Nope.
was not.
We have Blood Sabbath and Blood Orgy of the She-Devils. Just look those both up, Jason. You'll have a nice 73 movies with all the things tonight.
Yeah, I
Sweet.
thought there was going to be a Catholic schoolgirl dress going on in the movie as well. There was none of that either. So yeah.
No, that's
I
Little
married
Witches.
I married a Catholic schoolgirl, so it worked out for me pretty well. So we're coming close to the end of the show. Tabitha, where can people find you online, and what do you have coming up for yourself?
Right now, I am currently working on my mediumship skills. So right now, I am just behind the scenes and doing private readings for folks. But you can find me on Facebook, Tabitha Meadows, and I am the witch standing on the pumpkin.
Yay. Heather.
Yeah, in a couple weeks I'll be in Charlotte for Charles Oz to talk about the witches of the Wizard of Oz and how they are connected to modern witchcraft and all good things. So that's in Charlotte in 2 weeks. Charles Oz, you can check out the website there. I'll be presenting and enjoying a few days of Wizard of Oz stuff. I also am going to be doing a local event here in October on the 19th in Georgia, and I'm going to be with a couple other wonderful authors of mine, and we're going to be doing a little Halloween event here locally in Atlanta. So looking forward to that. That's not for another month, but that's it. Other than that, I am at heathergreene.net and on all the socials, Snapchatograms.
Richard-Lael, the man in the eye of the hurricane.
I am in the eye of the hurricane. What's next week's movie, by the way? Before
I'm going to look that
Teen
up.
Witch.
Oh,
It's Teen Witch, because I watched it today.
Teen Witch. Okay, so Teen Witch is next week. I actually, if they have the QR thing, producer Rob, I'm planning on going to Scotland next year, but the window is closing for people to sign up. I need to verify it. I need 2 more people to sign up before, pretty soon. So otherwise it does not get canceled. So if you would like to go meet me in Scotland, right there. It's not expensive. I would love to have you. We're going to do some seances. We're going to do a paranormal investigation. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I would love to have you there. Also, I'm everywhere, thegentlemanpsychic.com. Anywhere The Gentleman Psychic is sold. That's me.
I'm Jason Mankey. I've got a couple things coming up. I will be in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the 25th through the 27th of October. In Las Vegas, the 19th of October for a Samhain soiree. And then again in Vegas on the 16th for Las Vegas Pagan Pride. This is my last live show for a month because I'm going on vacation a week from tomorrow. But I will be giving you Mankey Minutes while I'm gone. Now,
Thank goodness.
with all of that, and that's my latest book, which will be out next spring. So I'm done talking about myself. There's only one thing left to do, and that's cackle. Tabitha, you get to cackle with us.